saying at a certain point in the league's existence, I'm going to need for Kelsey Mitchell to get the same whistle as each other stars. The way she gets assaulted is insane, actually. And I've considered roping my sister in it to have office purse charges. Now, this is when Caitlin Clark chimed in. Caitlin Clark said, careful, you're going to get fined. Then Sydney Colson said, I can't.
What if the WNBA's brightest star just revealed the league's darkest secret? In a single moment, Caitlin Clark went from fan favorite to whistleblower. 5 words that shook the entire league. What started as a controversial game between the Indiana Fever and the Los Angeles Sparks has now spiraled into something far bigger. Accusations of bias, fines used as intimidation, and a system that punishes players for speaking the truth. And at the center of it all is Caitlin Clark, whose warning may have exposed the fear every player has been forced to live with. The Indiana Fever's matchup with the Los Angeles Sparks should have been remembered as one of the season's most intense battles. The score was close, the energy was high, and every possession mattered. But instead of celebrating great basketball, fans left the arena stunned by what they saw from the officials. All night long, Fever guard Kelsey Mitchell relentlessly attacked the rim, driving straight through defenders with her trademark aggression. And time after time, she was hit, shoved, even grabbed out of the air, and the whistles never came. The crowd could see it, the commentators could see it, even players on the bench couldn't believe their eyes. Yet the referees stood silent, letting obvious fouls pass as if nothing had happened. On the sidelines, an injured Caitlin Clark could barely contain herself. She leapt from her seat, shouting at the officials to call it. Her frustration mirrored the emotion of every fan in the building. The tension was boiling over, and it was clear. This wasn't just a bad night of officiating. Something felt deeply wrong. While emotions boiled on the court, one of the Fever's most outspoken voices was watching from home. Sydney Colson, sidelined with a season-ending injury, had nothing to gain personally, but she wasn't about to stay quiet. She took to social media and unleashed a tweet that stopped fans in their tracks. At a certain point in the league's existence, I'ma need Kelsey Mitchell to get the same whistle as other stars. The way she gets assaulted is insane, actually, and I've considered roping my sister in to have her office pursue charges. It was part frustration, part humor, but mostly a bold accusation that one of her teammates was being physically punished with no protection from officials. For years, players avoided calling out referees publicly, knowing the league's reputation for punishing dissent. Colson's post shattered that unspoken rule, and the reaction online was instant. But as explosive as her words were, it was the response she got from Caitlin Clark that would change everything. Sydney Colson's tweet was already sparking conversation, but it was Caitlin Clark's response that turned a heated moment into a full-blown scandal. Watching the storm unfold, Clark replied with just 5 simple words. Careful, you're gonna get fined. On the surface, it looked casual, maybe even sarcastic, but to fans and players who know the league's culture, those words hit like a warning shot. This wasn't a joke. It was a stark reminder of the WNBA's unwritten code. Criticize the officials and your wallet pays the price. The meaning was clear. Players weren't just battling opponents on the court, they were battling a system designed to silence them, and the fact that Caitlin Clark, the league's biggest star, felt the need to say it publicly made the entire situation impossible to ignore. Colson's reply only fueled the fire. She shot back, "I can't get no more fines." That cryptic response hinted at something bigger, that behind closed doors, punishments had already been handed out, and she had simply reached her breaking point. The quiet part was now being said out loud. Normally, this is where the story would end. A player speaks up, the league hands down a fine, and everyone else falls back in line. But this time, the reaction was different. Instead of silencing the players, the WNBA sparked something bigger, a rebellion that spread far beyond the court. Fans flooded social media in support of Colson, openly promising to chip in and pay her fine if the league came after her. The message was clear. The players weren't standing alone anymore. Even Lynn Dunn, a respected former team executive, publicly joined the conversation, saying she'd help cover the cost herself. When one of the league's own insiders sides with the players, it signals a crisis no PR team can spin away. And Colson wasn't the first victim. Sophie Cunningham had already been fined multiple times for daring to speak her mind, even once for a harmless TikTok lip sync. Fever coach Stephanie White had been fined for calling the officiating egregious. The pattern was undeniable. Every time a player or coach challenged the league's authority, the punishment was swift and financial. But instead of shrinking back, this new wave of players and fans pushed forward, louder than ever. What was once a culture of fear had suddenly turned into a movement of defiance. The league wanted silence, but what it got was solidarity. If this were only about one game or one set of bad calls, the outrage might have died down. But the deeper fans looked, the clearer the picture became. This wasn't an isolated incident. It was a pattern. Take the numbers surrounding Caitlin Clark. This season, she's been on the receiving end of nearly 17% of all flagrant fouls in the entire WNBA. Think about that. One rookie targeted for almost a fifth of the league's most dangerous plays. No other player even comes close. That's not coincidence. It's a glaring sign that something is broken. And yet, instead of protecting their biggest star, the league appears more focused on punishing those who demand fairness. Coaches fined for honesty, players fined for jokes, veterans fined for simply pointing out what millions of fans already see. It's as if the WNBA would rather defend the image of perfect officiating than defend the very athletes who make the league matter. Imagine if an employee in any other profession accounted for nearly 1/5 of all workplace safety violations. There would be investigations, reform, accountability. In the WNBA, it's just business as usual. For fans and players alike, that realization was chilling. This wasn't just about mistakes. It was about a system designed to protect authority and silence dissent. The WNBA loves to present itself as a league built on empowerment. The marketing campaigns are polished, the slogans are bold, players are celebrated as powerful, fearless women with voices that inspire change. But behind the curtain, a very different story is playing out. Because when those same players actually use their voices to demand fairness, the league doesn't celebrate them. It fines them. Speak honestly about inconsistent officiating? That's money out of your pocket. Post a harmless joke that makes refs look bad? That's another fine. Even coaches and executives aren't spared. The message is unmistakable. Your voice is welcome as long as it doesn't challenge authority. It's a contradiction too big to ignore. The league profits off the passion and star power of its athletes, selling the idea that this generation is rewriting the rules. Yet the moment those athletes call out injustice, the hammer comes down. The WNBA wants to showcase empowerment to the public while quietly enforcing silence in private. And nowhere is that contradiction more visible than with Caitlin Clark, the very player driving record ratings and fan engagement. If even she feels compelled to warn teammates to watch their words, what does that say about the culture the league is enforcing? Caitlin Clark isn't just another rookie. She's the most marketable player the WNBA has ever seen. The Clark effect is selling out arenas, boosting TV ratings, and pulling millions of new fans into the league. In many ways, she is the league's future, the superstar that executives have been dreaming of for decades. But that's what makes her warning so powerful. When the face of the WNBA tells a teammate to be careful about speaking the truth, it reveals how fragile the system really is. Clark is too valuable to ignore, yet even she feels the pressure to toe the line. It's a striking symbol of the league's culture. No one is safe from the threat of fines, not even the player who's saving the league from irrelevance. And the irony is hard to miss. The same star the league promotes on every billboard is now the one exposing its flaws in plain sight. The same fan base Clark brought into the WNBA is now turning its outrage toward the officials, the fines, and the silence forced on players. Caitlin Clark's presence has become a double-edged sword. She's fueling unprecedented growth, but she's also spotlighting every crack in the league's foundation. And with millions of fans watching, the WNBA can no longer hide behind closed doors. What started as a few questionable calls has turned into something far bigger, a battle for the soul of the WNBA. Sydney Colson's defiant tweet, Caitlin Clark's 5-word warning, and the wave of fines aimed at silencing players have exposed a league at war with itself. On one hand, the WNBA is experiencing historic growth, record ratings, sold-out arenas, and more attention than ever before. On the other, it's punishing the very voices responsible for that success. The league's stars are marketed as fearless icons, but behind the scenes, they're told to stay quiet or pay the price. Now the truth is out in the open, and fans aren't staying silent either. They've rallied around the players, promising to cover fines and demanding accountability from the league. What was once an unspoken rule of silence has been shattered, and there's no going back. The question now isn't whether the officiating can improve. It's whether the WNBA can survive if it keeps trying to control its stars instead of protecting them. Because when the players are the heartbeat of the league, silencing them might just silence the game itself. So I'll leave you with this. Is the WNBA ready to embrace the voices that made it relevant? Or will it keep fighting against the very people who built its future?